Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 64 based on novel. So let's start. Lindong and Little Flame directly turned into two flashes of light. Their speed was raised to the limit as they rushed towards the life and death world that had trapped little Martin. They clearly understood that they would only have a tiny chance of survival today if they managed to rescue little Martin from within. After all, no matter how they struggled, the gap between them and Ren Yuanzi's group was simply too great. Truly a brat who does not know his limits, Ren Yuanzi smiled faintly when he saw this scene. With both of his hands behind his back, a merciless expression flashed deep within his eyes. Bang! Ren Yuanzi also chuckled. Since this brat has already voluntarily withdrawn from the Dao sect, it seems like I will no longer need to give the Dao sect any face. Ren Yuanzi extended his slender hand after as his words faded, and black-white energy that was filled with life and death force swept out. It transformed into a giant energy finger that pierced through the air and pressed down onto the two figures. Bang bang! Space itself completely crumbled as the giant finger was pressed downwards. Such power caused everyone in the city to feel their scalp turn numb. This was not a battle of people at the same level. The light finger tore through space and arrived. It swiftly enveloped the Lindong duo. The vast and mighty strength from it caused many to feel terrified. Big brother, go and rescue second brother. The giant black tiger that Little Flame had transformed into let loose a deep roar. Without waiting for Lindong's reply, it turned and charged straight at the giant finger. At this moment, it was obvious that someone must block the attack. Otherwise, neither of them would be able to approach the life and death world. Roar! Little Flame's figure shot out as he suddenly roared at the sky. His tiger eyes were blood red, while monstrous black light wildly surged out from within his body. Strange light tattoos roamed over the surface of his body. Bang bang! With the roaming of the light tattoos, numerous bloody holes began to be split open on Little Flame's body, as wave after wave of boiling hot fresh blood shot out from them. Bloodline sacrifice, heavenly devil ancestral soul. Fresh blood sprayed out. Finally, it rapidly agglomerated with the black light. Everyone watched as space itself began to distort. A blurry black light tiger which was hundreds of feet large stepped out. With the appearance of this black light tiger, a prehistoric aura surged out from its body. In that moment, it was as though one was back in the prehistoric era. Little Flame's body swiftly withered following the appearance of this black light tiger. Clearly, he had paid an extremely great price in order to unleash this move. The black light tiger stood in the sky. Its tiger eyes seemed to possess some intelligence as they looked at the light finger that was piercing through the air towards it. Finally, its enormous body turned into a bolt of black lightning. It was accompanied by a rich prehistoric aura as it directly collided with a bang against the light finger before countless pairs of eyes. Bang! Vast and frightening energy ripples wildly swept across the sky. Little Flame's body shot backwards, as fresh blood flowed wildly from his body, giving it an extremely miserable appearance. Although Little Flame had suffered a serious injury, he still managed to block the giant finger. Although it was a casual attack from Ren Yuanzi, Little Flame needed to risk his life to block it. Little Flame. Lindong glanced at the extremely miserable Little Flame, who was covered in fresh blood, as both of his hands tightly clenched. Fury and killing intent surged within his eyes. However, his body did not stop. Instead, it approached the life and death world at an even faster speed. Haha, to actually block an attack of mine. You are truly worthy of being a heavenly devil tiger. Ren Yuanzi laughed faintly. Soon after, his gaze shifted towards Lindong in the distance as he mocked, even the celestial demon Martin cannot damage this life and death world of mine. What can you do even if you approach it? Ren Yuanzi did not attack again. That life and death world contained life and death force. Such power was not something that Lindong, an 8-yuan Nirvana stage expert, was able to touch. There was a difference in the quality between the two. If Lindong was struck by the ripples of the life and death force, even his Yuan spirit would instantly turn into ashes. Lindong did not reply. His eyes were scarlet red, as he clenched both of his fists. Majestic Yuan power swept out, and a mysterious light formation appeared in front of him at a shocking speed, before swiftly expanding. Lindong did not hesitate when the light formation appeared. Several mouths of essence blood that contained pure Yuan power was directly spat onto the light formation. Brilliant rays of light instantly erupted from the light formation, as it abruptly started to rotate under Lindong's control. Numerous light symbols swiftly extended from the formation as it rotated. After which, a beam of light shot out from the middle of the formation and smashed onto the life and death world. A sizzling sound erupted when the light beam shot out. Soon after, everyone was shocked to see that the light curtain formed by life and death force began to show tiny signs of vanishing wherever the light beam landed. Ren Yuanzi's originally mocking expression changed a little at this moment. Immediately, his eyes stared intently at the rotating formation as he muttered, "What is this energy? To think that it is actually able to erode life and death force." Another mouthful of essence blood was spat out from Lindong's mouth as though it was free. His expression also quickly became pale, while his aura became extremely weary. He was aware that even though he possessed the decomposition ability of the ancient universe formation, it was merely a drop of water in an ocean when compared to Ren Yuanzi. "Little Martin, break it!" Lindong knew that it was impossible for him to break this life and death world. However, he did not need to break it, but to shake its foundation a little for little Martin. The decomposition power poured into the life and death world. At the same time, some ripples appeared on the light curtain. Evidently, it had become quite unstable. Roar? At this moment, little Martin suddenly lifted his head and let out a piercing roar from within it. Purplish-black energy maniacally gathered, and directly turned into 1,000 feet large claw which ruthlessly slammed into the life and death world. Bang bang bang. Wild and violent ripples spread uncontrollably, as a deep explosion sound was swiftly emitted from the light curtain. After which, everyone saw the enormous life and death world finally begin to collapse. In the end, it completely exploded amidst a series of crack sounds. Bang! The life and death world had exploded, and the enormous being trapped within it suddenly spread its enormous bat wings that seemingly blotted the sun. Purplish-black light whizzed out and wrapped the two individuals inside. Little Martin's bloody eyes gazed upon the two extremely miserable and bloody figures with extremely withered auras, as monstrous brutality and craziness gushed out from his giant eyes. It was the first time that the three brothers had been forced to such a state over the years. Moreover, someone as proud as him actually had to rely on the much weaker Lindong and Little Flame to risk their lives to rescue him. Little Martin gently placed the two of them behind him. After which, those bloody eyes of his looked towards the Ren Yuanzi trio. Soon after, a piercing roar that contained bitter resentment resounded in the sky. Ancestral mark, ignite! Rumble! As Little Martin's roar sounded, numerous complicated symbols suddenly appeared and flickered on his bat wings. These symbols seemed to have been formed by a bloodline, and they faintly gave off a cryptic but powerful undulation. Scarlet light suddenly surfaced on Little Martin's bat wings. After which, those cryptic symbols began to disappear one after another. It was as though they had turned into blood and flowed into Little Martin's body. Roar? With the disappearance of these symbols, Little Martin's several thousand feet large body actually began to swell wildly at this moment. His shadow practically covered the entire unique Devil City. At the same time, Little Martin's aura also soared crazily. Within a short 10 breaths' time, it had reached an extreme level in the eyes Ren Yuanzi trios as their expressions sunk a little. At this moment, Little Martin's strength had recovered to its peak condition by igniting the ancestral mark. Old dogs from Yuan Gate. Today, Grandpa Martin will cripple at least one of you even if I have to sacrifice this life of mine. When Little Martin's aura soared to this terrifying level, a ruthless roar once again shook and resounded across the land. An enormous shadow covered the entire unique Devil City. Everyone wore shocked faces as they looked at the gigantic creature in the sky. The celestial demon Martin indeed lived up to its reputation. Its frightening body truly looked as if it could devour the sun and moon. Moreover, everyone could feel that Little Martin's aura was clearly becoming increasingly powerful as his body swelled. In fact, he was no longer weaker than any one of the three great sect masters of the Yuan Gate. Igniting the Ancestral Mark, this is a celestial demon Martin clan technique to ensure one's survival. Although he would be able to temporarily regain his strength by using this method, it is likely that he would suffer quite severe injuries after. The blue-robed elder looked at the enormous black shadow in the sky. His eyes focused as he softly explained. However, even if he has regained his strength, it is still impossible for him to take on all three of them alone. The Ren Yuanzi trio are experts who have already stepped into the samsara stage. Ren Yuanzi involuntarily clenched his fist tightly when he heard the blue-robed elder's words. The expression in his eyes was a complicated one. Purplish-black energy had practically turned into a thick layer of clouds in the sky. The clouds floated around little Martin, covering his enormous body until it was only faintly visible. I'm afraid that you will not be able to kill one of us even after igniting your ancestral mark. Ren Yuanzi looked at the purplish-black clouds that permeated the sky, as a grave expression gathered in his eyes. However, he quickly shook his head. Then I'll just have to try. Little Martin's sharp voice rumbled down from the sky. In the next instant, the clouds stirred and transformed into 1,000 feet large purplish-black crescent moon. The crescent moon hung in the sky as a frightening fluctuation spread, causing dread to be born in one's heart. Demon Moon. A giant purplish-black claw penetrated the cloud layer and grabbed the crescent moon. Without pause, it suddenly swung the crescent moon down. The latter tore through space and hacked furiously towards the Ren Yuanzi trio. Bang! The crescent moon whistled across the horizon. Although it was several thousand of feet away, an incredibly enormous crack had already appeared within unique Devil City. To think that the strength of this rotating moon was actually so frightening. Humph! Ren Yuanzi let out a soft and cold snort as he watched this scene. With a wave of his sleeve, life and death force whizzed out and directly turned into an enormous black and white disk in the sky. Black and white coexisted on the disk, appearing like yin and yang. Just as the life and death disk formed, the moon ferociously arrived. After which, they ruthlessly crashed into each other like meteorites. Boom! A loud sound reverberated in the sky above. After which, everyone saw 1,000 feet large energy fluctuation wildly sweeping across the sky like a surging flood. In that instant, the entire sky had crumbled, as numerous enormous black cracks appeared in succession like the large mouth of a demon. The life and death disk shot backwards due to the impact, while Ren Yuanzi was also hit by the backlash and was actually forced 2 steps back. Immediately, his eyes became a little dark and solemn. His body moved and appeared on the life and death disk that had flew backwards. After which, his body seemed merged with the disk, transforming into a flash of black and white light that once again rushed towards little Martin in the sky. Boom boom boom. Frightening fluctuations continued to ripple across the sky. The enormous rotating moon continued to attack Ren Yuanzi. On top of this attack, some fluctuations also swept towards the Ren Yuanzi duo. From the looks of it, little Martin intended to take on the three of them alone. It has been many years since I have fought. Since you wish to play, I shall accompany you. Ren Yuanzi and Yuanzi exchanged glances. Immediately, a cold glint flashed across the both of their eyes. With an icy chuckle, they rushed out at the same time, before finally charging into the battleground in the sky. Rumble. With the addition of the Ren Yuanzi duo, those purplish-black clouds in the sky began to crumble at a shocking speed. Little by little, little Martin's enormous body also began to be forced back in retreat. Clearly, even though his strength had momentarily recovered, little Martin still had difficulty fighting those three alone. He is actually fighting the three great sect masters of Yuan Gate alone. Ling Qingzhu watched the great earth-shaking battle in the sky from a building far away. Her usually cool and indifferent face was involuntarily slightly affected. The series of events today caused even her to have difficulty remaining calm. It is no wonder that the celestial demon Martin is one of the overlord-level clans in the demonic beast world. The pretty lady beside Ling Qingzhu nodded her head in a somewhat shocked manner. Soon after, she remarked, if it was a one-on-one match, he would perhaps not fear the three Yuan Gate sect masters. However, taking on the three of them alone is really pushing it. Regardless, it is likely that this matter will cause the entire Eastern Xian region to fall into an uproar once it spreads. That little fellow called Lindong is really no virtuous saint. He only possesses the strength of the 8 Yuan Nirvana stage, yet he is actually able to stir such a storm. However, the Yuan Gate will likely not easily let him off because of this. By the side, Su Ru involuntarily clenched her small fists tightly when she heard these words. Her eyes were a little red. After some hesitation, she suddenly said, "Big brother Lindong will not die in this place." Although she was clearly aware of what kind of danger Lindong was currently in, she still stubbornly believed that this person, who constantly created miracles, would not easily die at the hands of Yuan Gate. Ling Qingzhu looked at the red-eyed stubborn face of Su Ru. Moments later, a smile, which could bewitch anyone, was revealed under the cover of her veil, as she also nodded slightly. He is very ambitious. Before he achieves his goals, it is likely that no one will be able to kill him. Both of you. The pretty woman was somewhat helpless as she looked at these two ladies. She immediately shook her head. The ones who were taking action against Lindong this time were no ordinary individuals. They were the three great sect masters of Yuan Gate. These were genuine pinnacle-level experts in the Eastern Xian region. He knows that he is unable to defeat the Ren Yuanzi trio. Why does he still do this? Ren Yuanzi muttered as he watched little Martin slowly being defeated in the sky. The blue-robed elder frowned slightly. His eyes slowly swept towards the purplish-black clouds that permeated the sky. A moment later, his pupils abruptly contracted. He stared intently at a certain spot behind little Martin. A purplish-black cloud layer was suspended at that spot. However, there was a vague and mysterious fluctuation being emitted from this cloud layer. He does not intend to engage in an all-out battle with Ren Yuanzi's group. The blue-robed elder's eyes flickered. He suddenly remarked, "He seems to be preparing something." Ren Yuanzi's eyes also focused when he heard this. He also noticed the cluster of inconspicuous purplish-black clouds. Soon after, his fists suddenly tightened. That is a teleportation fluctuation. He intends to leave with Lindong and Little Flame. If he truly bets his life, he might really be able to kill one of the three great masters of Yuan Gate. However, Lindong and Little Flame will also have difficulty escaping this calamity. The blue-robed elder nodded slightly. He is purposefully fighting the Ren Yuanzi trio to prevent them from discovering the teleportation fluctuation. I hope that he will succeed. Ren Yuanzi clenched his hands tightly. Clearly, he also did not wish for Lindong to die in this place. Bang! Another thunderous sound exploded in the sky. Little Martin's enormous body suddenly withdrew rapidly, flickering as he actually transformed back into human form. His eyes were grim as he looked at the Ren Yuanzi trio in the distant sky. After which, he waved his sleeve. Purplish-black energy swept apart, directly grabbing Lindong and Little Flame as they swiftly withdrew into the purplish-black cloud layer. The light in the cloud layer swiftly disappeared when the three of them entered, as a distorted spatial formation appeared. Teleportation? When the Ren Yuanzi trio saw this, their expressions changed drastically. I will control the formation. We cannot remain in the Eastern Xian region anymore. The seals formed by Little Martin's hands changed rapidly. Immediately, the distorted spatial formation began to rotate at high speeds, as a wild spatial fluctuation spread in a crazy fashion. Lindong's complexion was pale as he watched the dark and solemn face of Little Martin. He could sense that the latter's aura was rapidly diminishing. Immediately, he understood that the latter's strength had begun to vanish. If Little Martin's strength completely declined, they would no longer have any chance of escaping. Trying to escape? How can it be so easy? The Ren Yuanzi trio let out a cold snort, and simultaneously attacked. Vast energy tore through the sky and ruthlessly smashed onto the spatial formation. From the looks of it, the teleportation formation that Little Martin had painstakingly built would be destroyed immediately if they were to be struck by it. Bastard! Little Martin's eyes were scarlet red as he watched the attack from those three whistling over. He was currently controlling the formation, and was clearly unable to separation any attention to deal with the attacks from those three. I will stop them. A deep roar was emitted from the black tiger that Little Flame had turned into. Immediately, his body transformed into a flash of black light as he rushed out. It seemed that he intended to use his life to block the attack. Bang! However, a figure stepped forward before Little Flame could rush out of the formation. The figure threw a kick backwards and sent Little Flame back into the formation, while using the resultant force to shoot out of the formation. Big brother! Little Flame and Little Martin gazed at the figure that had shot out, and were momentarily stunned. Their eyes quickly turned blood red. Lindong's figure hovered in the sky. His unwavering gaze was fixed onto the frightening attack that was tearing through the air towards him. Before this attack reached him, the terrifying pressure had already caused the space around Lindong to show signs of being distorted. A simultaneous attack by the three great sect masters of Yuan Gate, such power was sufficient to cause Lindong to be in an eternally hopeless situation. Although Lindong understood that his appearance was merely akin to a mantis trying to stop a car, he did not hesitate. The activation of the formation still required time. Hence, Simone must step forward to block this attack. Otherwise, none of them would survive. A resplendent light formation swiftly extended from Lindong's palm once again. Quickly after, he opened his mouth, as a scarlet red light swept out and transformed into scarlet red fernance that protected him within it. A light beam filled with the power of decomposition was the first to rush forward. After which, it collided heavily against the majestic and frightening attack under the attention of numerous gazes. Although the decomposition power was unique, there was undoubtedly a gap like that of an ant and a mountain when compared with the attack from the three great sect masters of Yuan Gate. Hence, the light beam only endured for a split second before it completely collapsed. Boom! The light beam was shattered, and the majestic attack arrived. In the end, it smashed heavily onto the scarlet red cauldron. Immediately, a clear metallic sound resounded in the sky. A circular scarlet red ripple quickly spread after the loud sound appeared. Subsequently, everyone watched as the radiance of the scarlet red cauldron swiftly dimmed. Finally, it emitted a swoosh sound and turned into a flash of light which returned to Lindong's body. Lindong was affected when the burning sky cauldron suffered a blow, and he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, while that originally pale face of his became even paler. Clearly, Lindong could not block the attack from the three great sect masters even after relying on a pure Yuan treasure. Lindong did not have the time to pull back after spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood when he suddenly sensed the space around him freeze. After which, terrifying power seeped out from the space and wrapped around him. Creak! Lindong's body seemed to have instantly become distorted under the erosion of that frightening power. Fresh blood wildly seeped out from his pores. That appearance of his suggested that he was about to be turned into mincemeat. Intense pain spread crazily within Lindong's body. Even with his willpower, he could not help but release a low roar of pain. Blood continued to surge out, making him look as if he was made from blood. The Ren Yuanzi trio watched this scene from the distant sky in an indifferent manner. Their eyes were merciless. There was not the slightest amount of pity in them. Within the formation behind Lindong, the eyes of Little Flame and Little Martin turned blood red. The giant black tiger that Little Flame had transformed into suddenly let loose a long roar towards the sky. A roar that was filled with bitter resentment. Boom! Wave after wave of pain wildly charged towards Lindong's heart. He could truly sense death at this moment despite the great strength of his current physical body. Such an attack had already far exceeded the limits that his physical body could endure. He could hear the bones all over his body emitting faint cracking sounds. Lindong's sight began to be corroded by the blood until it became blurry. An unusually weary and helpless feeling reverberated within Lindong's heart. Am I really going to die here? A mutter sounded within Lindong's heart. His consciousness gradually began to become fuzzy. The moment that Lindong's consciousness was about to be completely lost, that heavenly dragon aura that had been existing within his dantian suddenly exploded at this moment. The heavenly dragon aura exploded. It spread rapidly and filled Lindong's body. Moreover, it tunneled into Lindong's twisted medians and shattered bones at an astonishing speed. Roar! Wave after wave of heavenly dragon aura continued to enter Lindong's flesh. This energy was usually extremely overbearing, and even Lindong could only absorb a tiny sliver of it. Yet, at this very moment, the heavenly dragon aura had begun to fuse with Lindong's physical body on its own accord under the frightening external pressure. It strengthened his body to withstand the external pressure. Bright green light suddenly erupted once again on the surface of Lindong's body. After which, everyone saw that Lindong's body was actually beginning to swell and shake. In the next moment, green light exploded, as a soul-stirring dragon roar resounded from within. As the dragon roar resonated, one could see green dragon that was 12 feet in size suddenly appearing within it. The body of the dragon gave off an intense dragon aura. Such a dragon aura was not ordinary. Only fairly high-ranked dragon clan experts of the dragon clan were able to possess such a heavenly dragon aura. Although this heavenly dragon aura was much weaker when compared to the real deal, the ripple from it was completely real. What martial art did this brat practice? To think that it is so peculiar, and is able to transform into such a pure green dragon body. Ren Yuanzi frowned slightly and remarked after seeing this scene. No matter what tricks you have, you will not have a second path to take under this attack. A chilling glint flashed in Ren Yuanzi's eyes. The more outstanding Lindong was, the greater the killing desire in his heart. The humiliation Lindong suffered today would definitely cause Lindong to bear a deep hatred towards their Yuan Gate. If he was allowed to escape, Lindong would definitely become an even more powerful and troublesome opponent than Ju Tong given his talent. At that time, perhaps even they would begin to feel a headache. The green dragon surfaced from within the green light. It swiftly entrenched itself. Green light surged wildly on its dragon scales in an attempt to last a little longer in the face of such a frightening attack. The heavenly dragon aura within Lindong's body completely erupted at this crucial moment, causing the green heaven materialized dragon skill that he practiced to be strengthened once again. His body was finally able to turn into a green dragon body. Its strength was clearly much greater than before. Bang bang. Even though this was the case, it was clearly impossible for Lindong to truly possess the capacity to block the attack. Hence, the green dragon that Lindong had transformed into ended up falling back in defeat in the face of the frightening strength that tore through the air, while the scales on the dragon body also cracked and exploded one after another. Within a short period of time, the green dragon body was once again covered in injuries. Even though this was the case, everyone in Unique Devil City were somewhat flabbergasted. Several eyes began to turn grave as they looked at the green dragon. They were really unable to imagine that an 8-Yuan Nirvana stage practitioner was actually able to endure for such a long time under the attack from the 3 great sect masters of Yuan Gate. Although the 3 great sect masters did not use their full strength, there was an immense difference in status between both parties. If this person doesn't die, Yuan Gate will definitely face a disaster in the future. Some of the sharper-eyed individuals had serious expressions as they looked at each other, while this thought rose within their hearts. From the ferocity Lindong had shown, it was likely that given time, he would surpass that monster Ju Tong from the Dao sect, who had shook the eastern Xian region 100 years ago. Back then, Ju Tong had charged into the Yuan Gate alone and killed 3 great elders. If Lindong survived, what would happen? Merely imagining such a scene caused everyone to feel their scalps turn a little numb. Boom! If these people could have such thoughts, the Chen Yuanzi trio would have naturally also thought of it. Hence, a faint chilly glint was present deep within their eyes. Although they did not attack again, they had clearly secretly strengthened the attack that was heading towards Lindong. Boom! A bloody glow exploded on the green dragon body. Scales flew as the vigor in the green dragon's eyes quickly dimmed. Bang! Another wave of frightening power seeped out from the air and ruthlessly blasted the green dragon. In the distance, Ying Xuanzi suddenly clenched both of his fists when he saw this scene. He immediately spoke in a low voice, "Great Elder, accompany me as I intervene this one time. I wish to send him away from this place." The blue-robed elder was startled when he heard this. He quickly nodded quietly. Bang! A vast attack was suddenly unleashed from the hands of the Ying Xuanzi duo. Finally, it tore through space and shattered the frightening power that was just about to blast the green dragon. The sudden intervention of the Ying Xuanzi duo immediately gave rise to an uproar from the entire place. Ying Xuanzi, what are you doing? Ren Yuanzi abruptly cried out furiously. One should forgive and forget. Ren Yuanzi, aren't you people being too extreme? Ying Xuanzi cried out coldly. Cutting the grass but not removing the root. Do you think that our Yuan Gate is so indecisive? Our Yuan Gate does not wish to see the Jutong incident back then happening a second time. Chen Yuanzi frowned slightly and said, both of you stop them. I will destroy their formation. Roger. The Ren Yuanzi duo immediately nodded after hearing Chen Yuanzi's words. Bang! The three of them suddenly stepped forward after their voices sounded. Ren Yuanzi and Di Yuanzi immediately moved and blocked the Ying Xuanzi duo. On the other hand, Chen Yuanzi gazed at Lindong with an indifferent expression. Soon after, with a clench of his fist, 1,000 feet large black light beam that was filled with life and death force suddenly shot out from his hand. One could tell that Chen Yuanzi did not hold back this time. He wanted to completely annihilate the Lindong trio with a single attack. Rumble. The light beam seemed to penetrate the heavens. It shot towards Lindong's group at an astonishing speed, and space collapsed wherever it passed. The green dragon that Lindong had turned into had also withdrawn into the formation at this time. Little Martin's eyes were red as he continued to activate the formation in an attempt to teleport and escape before the attack arrived. However, that light beam was too quick. In a mere instant, it had already arrived above the formation. A little more, just a little. Little Martin's expression was ugly as a low roar emerged from his mouth. The surrounding space became increasingly distorted after the roar sounded, while many light beams began to converge towards the three of them. Humph, trying to escape. A cold snort was suddenly emitted from Chen Yuanzi when the spatial light beams converged towards the trio. After which, another light beam ruthlessly shot over. Bang! However, a 10,000 feet crack suddenly appeared when the light beam was about to strike the formation. After which, a green dragon claw that could cover the entire unique Devil City suddenly swept down through the crack in space. The claw forcibly crushed the 1,000 feet large light beam in front of countless shocked eyes. This video will end here.